I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, January the 15th, where we've got heavy auction receipts in your Midwestern auctions. A lot of farmer cattle moving through. We saw the heaviest reported auction receipts last week, the heaviest we've seen since a week in 2010. And I know there's not more cattle moving that, but your direct receipts, your cattle that are just moving right from the ranch into the feedlots, are not reported nearly as well. And we're seeing the time of the year where people are bringing cattle into the sales in your heavily reported auctions in the Midwest, and typically farmer type cattle, guys that have crops and have a cow herd, and they sell most of their cattle in the sale barns. Why wouldn't they? That's where the best market is, and that's where your prices are really being established, is in the auctions. Not so much on a video or in a direct trade basis, but big sales in the Midwest, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, places like that. But look at the board for last week. February live cattle ended the week at 117.37, down $1.88 for the week, which was not all that bad. March feeder cattle ended the week at 142.65, down 68 cents for the week. And you think, well, I thought it was a wreck last week. Well, it was a wreck. And I keep telling you guys, the board is not the market. The market is what somebody is willing to pay for some actual cattle. And it was a wreck in your cash feeders, with your January spot feeder cattle contract ending the week at 144.35. And you know, that was running like an $8 difference between the cash, and we didn't think there was any way that those two would be able to come together by the middle of the month here. But look, and I really thought it would be a mild rally in your January contracts, but it wasn't. It was a total crash of your cash market. And you know, if you listen to me, I'm not real wild about that feeder cattle contract at all. It's just a derivative of your fat cattle contract, and it doesn't have delivery. And not sure why the market was so scared to get back in line with that. But because you have a cash settlement there, but it really did it in a hurry. And I think it was just really the conditions that caused your feeder cattle to wreck more than anything, with your feedlots being mostly full to the brim. We've got a lot of cattle being displaced off wheat because temperatures have gotten really cold, and there's nowhere to go with those cattle because there's no growing lot space, there's no feedlot space. So we got cattle there. Guys are wanting to keep a hold of them because they had a hard time getting those cattle straightened up, and now they turned them out, and the wheat was really rank early, and then it just completely went away. It's so dry down the southern plains. It's really dry everywhere, but yet the temperatures are severely cold, and you know, it's not much fun to have to supplementally feed cattle whenever you're paying for that pasture out there that doesn't exist. But you look at the fat cattle trade for last week, 86,000 head in your 5-area feeding region, which is a decent movement. Mostly all your live sales at 120, dress sales at 192. And if you remember, we had that unorthodox trade on a Monday and a Tuesday, but thank goodness we had it because things were so bearish around. It's hard telling what you could have got if we'd have waited till, you know, Thursday or late Friday to do that fat cattle trade. It wouldn't have been that good. Box beef cutout values on the average of last week's trade for the week. Choice boxes 209.61, up $1.62. Selects at 202.98, up 3 1/4. The choice select spread whittled down to just $6.63. But look at your cash feeder market. I tell you what, in the sales, your real market for cash feeders, I'm talking about big calves going right into the feedlot, and what background and yearlings we have available, $10 to $15 lower. And I tell you what, that is a hunk of a percentage off of the value of those cattle there. $10 to $15. A lot of just straight up $12 and $14 lower in big, heavy volume sales, where you get a good test of the market. Lighter calves sold weak to $5 lower. Still good demand for those. Guys are already buying grass cattle because they know that they'll get higher later on when we get closer to grass. So you see them buying grass cattle earlier and earlier every year, and buying a lot of grass cattle, and just going to try to keep those cattle healthy and just kind of baby them along until we get to some cheaper ways to put pounds on them. But I'm not sure your calves would have been any lower at all if we hadn't seen that big wreck on your feeder cattle, but it did hurt the market on them a little bit, and week to 5 lower on those. Real-time index on Beef Market Central saw the severe loss there all the way down into the week at 145.33. That was $8.63 lower than it was at the end of the previous week, and that's a 7-day moving average coming out of bajillion sales up through the middle 12 states of the United States there. Your CME feeder cattle index has been running right at the heels of your RTI. Of course, it's a day late coming out. It ended the week at 146.80, but it'd be real tight in there to that 145.33 by the time it comes out next time. Look at the market late in the week, and which is still boasting some pretty fancy prices there at Lexington, Nebraska. 4,000 head on offer. They still call the market $3 to $9 lower, but I tell you what, there's some guys in the Southern Plains would love to tap into these prices. You look at 98 head here of 489 pound steer calves. 4 o'clock on Friday brought 209, and on some big feeders there, I had a load at 5 o'clock in the evening of 848 pound steers, bring 151.85. That's your feeder flash for Monday.